and I've shared some version of this before. You know Kurt Vonnegut, right? The Slaughterhouse-Five and Cat's Cradle, right? Yeah. And in Cat's Cradle, he talks about Ice 9, which is that molecule that's going to go around the world and turn all water molecules and freeze them, basically ending life. And my sense is that, and this is, I don't know the answer to this one, I'm just kind of spooked by it, which is digital narcissism. The ability of Instagram and Facebook and Twitter less so, but for sure, I mean, especially Instagram, because it's so visual and all these things, is that our best efforts to get beyond ourselves, and whether that's Burning Man, whether that's the top of a mountain, whether that's Peru, right, and an ayahuasca ceremony with indigenous elders, our phones and our socially constructed identities are following us into those places. And so no sooner have we had the initiatory experience that more and more of us are snapping the post, picturing the caption, sending it out, ricocheting it back into the ersatz simulated version of ourselves out there. And we aren't able, and that is actually keeping pace, like the Ice 9 crystal, ahead of our ability to return to our humanity. And it's happening in the mountains and surfing. There was an article in the New Yorker last month that was talking about how surfers have all become extra stylized in how they're surfing because they're aware that there are the cameras all around and it's instantly, and that's how they keep their sponsors and their likes and everything else. So that the soul arch, which used to be like the Malibu longboarder, move, which was a true expression of being in the Tao, being in that moment on that wave in perfection. Now everything is crafted and stylized. In mountaineering, the geotagging has been happening where beautiful, pristine, natural, wild places are being trampled and overrun because one Instagrammer took the picture and the pose, and then everyone rushes to go and get that same backdrop. So we're seeing it not just in psychedelic experience. Burning Man is obviously, there was a Fast Company article earlier this year about has Instagram ruined Burning Man, even where billionaires hadn't. And I think you can make a case where you start seeing, it sort of becomes the next Coachella, and you start seeing it's not and that's arguably, among the most potent initiatory rituals that humanity has ever experienced, full stop, especially at that scale, 75,000 people.
Right.
And that has been captured by digital narcissism. And so that to me, that's the one I didn't see coming.
Okay.
And that is the one that has metastasized in a way that it feels to me there's an increasing bifurcation as we're leading into whatever's coming. And it's people who have been transformed by those experiences and are fully surrendered to being lived by, for lack of a better word, being lived by love, being lived by that life impulse, being lived by that higher and more expansive intelligence and imperative, versus the false light, hungry ghosts. Because it's easy to spot, right, light and to recognize it for what it is, but then to seek to capture it for egoic ends, for pride, for fame, for virtue signaling, to build an audience, to monetize a following, you name it. And so that fracture, because you would think, hey, everybody at the party, everybody wearing leather and feathers, everybody liking the right bands or going to the same festivals or consuming the same sacraments, right? We must all be on the same team. We're all mouthing the same words and espousing the same values. But in fact, I feel like there's a schism that's been happening. And it's either you're actually taking that journey to completion, in which case it reformats who you are and what you're here to do. And it aligns you with what you were born to do, versus those who are skimming the cream but unwilling to kind of churn the butter.
And that digital technology stops you from making that full evolution.
It is utterly pernicious. It re-skins and re-encapsulates. I mean, and that's a natural process, right? You come out of a peak state, and Imperial College and the psilocybin trauma studies, they've experienced that. They've got all these truly, heartwarming video shots of people coming out of therapy,
right,
saying, I'm healed, I'm fixed. But then coming back 3 months later, 6 months later, some people are in the dark night of the soul. Some people are like, actually, yes, all those things were true, but my life, as you said, is hard. There's complications, contradictions, ambiguities. And 6 months later, I might even actually feel worse because now I've seen the light and it's now been taken away from me. So those are the real challenges for us.
Yeah, there's a point in the movie where I meet up with a guy named Dorian Yates, who was a 6-time Mr. Olympia bodybuilder who's been on the show, and he's become very spiritual, and he's had some very difficult ayahuasca experiences recently, and we're talking together on Hempstead Heath, and he said, Brian, sometimes I think, wasn't ignorance bliss?
Mm-hmm.
6 months after that ceremony.
I say that to folks all the time. I'm like, if you don't absolutely have to, take the proverbial red pill, not the Reddit, 4chan mutation it's become, but literally gnostically initiate yourself into the sort of true nature of things. If you don't absolutely have to, don't. Take the blue pill. Imagine the steak. It's infinitely preferable, because there's an old Chinese saying, it says it's a path best never begun, but if begun, must be completed.